Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Now today we're actually going to be... okay, so you may have noticed that the last episode was actually rather interesting, as I actually had John Wolf Jr., candidate for Senate in Tennessee and candidate for president in 2012 and 2016, on as a guest. Link in the description if you missed that episode. Now, that was a rather interesting episode. Me and John Wolf Jr. had a nice exchange of words. It was nice. Now, you may have noticed that originally that was supposed to be someone else. Darcy Richardson. Well, I don't exactly know what happened, but Darcy Richardson has yet to respond to my emails asking him for his interview, even though his interview was ready before John Wolf's. But I mean, I'm glad to have had an interaction with one of the progressive individuals who ran for president against Obama in 2012. He even clarified some misconceptions on his Wikipedia page, which I'm at one point be editing to fix the mistakes. Okay, so today we're going to be, discussing, a lot of things. The first one I'm actually going to be discussing is actually, I'm recording this on July the 3rd, because there's a slight chance that I might not be able to get this episode recorded in a later date. Oh, and by the way, today's July 3rd. The day that I'm recording this is actually my birthday. Woohoo! So, yeah, I'm going to be discussing some things that happened in the latest while. The earliest thing I'm going to be talking about is something that happened 4 days ago. But first, we're going to get into the biggest news story. Andrés Manuel López Obrador, candidate for the National Regeneration Movement, or Morena, has won the Mexican presidency. Okay, you may know if you visit my website, which nobody does, but just hypothetically, if you visit my website, you would know that I endorsed Andrés Manuel López Obrador, or AMLO as he's called, for the Mexican presidency, because he's, a left-wing, president, he was a left-wing presidential candidate, despite the fact that you may have believed otherwise, due to the fact that John Oliver has also done what he did with Jill Stein and kind of tried to smear him, calling him a bit vague on policy positions, even though it was right there on his website what he stood for. But I mean, come on, why would John Oliver do the research? There's a reason why Jon Stewart will always be my favorite talk show host, because he actually presented things objectively. Well, except for that one time he shit-talked Cruz for this.
I would nominate any gay to the Supreme Court, or lesbian, or bisexual, or transgendered person to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I mean, that one time was kind of bad, but, every talk show host has their ups and downs. It just so happens that Jon Stewart had one down, and literally every single other one had a million downs, but, I mean, come on. Man, I sure do miss Jon Stewart. But anyways, back on the topic at hand, AMLO. I'm glad that he won the Mexican presidency, and I'm looking forward to his tenure. Now all we need to do is elect Bernie Sanders in America and Jagmeet Singh in Canada, and we can have all three of the major North American countries be dominated by a left-winger. Well, I mean, you could also count the South American South American countries, not South American, the Central American countries that have complete, utter socialist states, but, no, I don't. Anyways, the next candidate is, no, not next candidate, my brain kind of farted because the next story actually has multiple candidates involved. Ted Cruz tells people to vote Democratic in the Illinois District 3 congressional race. Senator Ted Cruz, Republican from Texas, obviously, on Friday made him known for his distaste for a Republican congressional candidate who is a Holocaust denier, so much so that an adherent conservative encouraged people in the district to vote Democrat. "This is horrific. An avowed Nazi running for Congress," Cruz tweeted, linking to a political article on Arthur Jones, the avowed Nazi who snookered, his own words, his way into the Republican nomination for Illinois' 3rd congressional district against the heavily favored incumbent Democrat Representative Dan Lipinski. To have the good people of Illinois, you have to have 2 reasonable choices: write in another candidate or vote for the Democrat. This bigoted fool should receive 0 votes. This bigoted fool should receive 0 votes. Well, hate to break it to you, dude, but he received plenty of votes in his primary run. You see, what many people, I mean, you obviously know this, but you know, when you run for Congress, you have to have a primary. Well, in his primary, Arthur Jones, the avowed Nazi, received 20,681 votes. You know, if the Republican Party didn't want him, they would have just not voted for him. Literally one person could have just walked in and voted and said, "I'm running as the other guy," and they would have just said, "Yeah, we can go fuck this Nazi guy." Now, many people have been hearing this news story like, "Oh my gosh, Ted Cruz, he said that he's going to endorse the Democrat. It means he is..." They either insinuate that he's moving further to the left, which, I mean, let me describe a candidate in the race. He is anti-abortion, anti-gay, anti-Obama, and is adherently conservative. I did not describe Arthur Jones. I described incumbent Dan Lipinski. Dan Lipinski is an adherent conservative or Blue Dog Democrat. He is a member of Blue Dog Democrats. He's like the co-chair of Blue Dog Democrats. So, in my opinion, the news article should literally just say conservative endorses conservative, because literally there's no surprise. Now, it just happens I'm also endorsing a candidate in that race, and believe it or not, there's actually another person in the race. His name is Matzus Tomohaukiak. He's a Polish immigrant and he's progressive, obviously. Why would I endorse him otherwise? But, you see, many people don't pay attention to this because they literally just see conservative versus Nazi. Like, they don't even see conservative. They think Dan Lipinski's a left-winger because that's the biggest misconception of the Democratic Party, period. They were just like, "Oh, look at this left-winger." Not this. You must be looking at a different Democratic Party than me, sister, because they ain't no left-winger. And another problem that I have with this, and especially considering in North Carolina, there's also a state house race where there's white supremacists running. And it's a thing I didn't think of until like 1 a.m. at one point in the night. But, you see, it came into my head, like, thinking about Dan Lipinski, thinking about all these conservative Democrats, like, all these Democrats who want to, like, spread this message of being, you know, united liberals and don't want anybody to think that they're further to the left or further to the right than they are, i.e., they don't want anybody to think, oh, they're not centrists, because, well, they are centrists, but everybody seems to think that they're not. But here's the thing. Can't they expel people from the party? You may not remember, but technically, since these parties are private, these are private businesses, well, not businesses. Well, you could argue businesses because, you know, the whole money and politics thing, but since these guys are private and not technically owned by the government, they have the right to kick out whoever they want. If the Libertarian Party wanted to kick out anybody, they could. This has happened before. The Whig Party expelled John Tyler because he didn't adhere to their principles. So, literally every single Nazi that is running for the Republican Party can kick out all they want. And Dan Lipinski and every other member of the Blue Dog Democrat coalition can be kicked out if they want. But that's the thing. These parties don't want people to be kicked out because these parties aren't principled. The major two parties are not principled. They don't care if a Nazi is in their party. They don't care if a conservative is in their party. They don't even care what your ideals are. They only care if you can bring votes to your party, and as Arthur Jones clearly proved, he can bring votes to his party. It's just insane to think. Like, many people even don't realize this. This is what lesser of the two evils gets you. Dan Lipinski and Arthur Jones. I would legitimately not be surprised if in the future there's a conservative Democrat and a literal white supremacist running for the office of the presidency in the future. I would not be surprised. Because this is what's going to happen. If the Democratic Party shifts further to the center, as they keep claiming they want to do, many people don't realize this about the Democratic Party. There is no center for them to shift to anymore. Because you see, that's literally their response. When FDR took them to the right, and LBJ took them... when FDR took them to the left, and LBJ took them to the left, they were like, okay, let's move further to the center. Move closer to the center. So now they're in between the center left and the center. And then they're like, okay, let's move closer to the center. Now they're in the center. Okay, let's move closer to the center. But we're already in the center. No, we gotta move closer. Then they shift to the right. People don't know this. They don't know this. They're stupid. Well, not stupid, they're ignorant. They don't pay attention to history. If they paid attention to the history, they would know that the Democratic Party literally did this. When it was founded, center. Then, at one point, they shifted to center right. With the likes of Grover Cleveland. And then they shifted to the center left. With the likes of FDR. They shifted closer to the center thanks to Harry Truman. And, them kicking out a majority of their party. And then they shifted back to the left after LBJ and his presidency. Then they shifted back to the center thanks to, Hubert Humphrey, I believe, was the biggest factor. Because he wasn't that left-wing, really. And then the party just kept shifting to what they called the center, when in reality it was actually the right that they were shifting to. And then, whenever they even want to slowly shift to the left again, the Democratic Party just goes whoop. The Democratic Party isn't the only people who try to do this. The Republican Party was at one point just center-right. Or technically they were even center-left at one point. But that was because the definition of center-left meant something different in the 1860s than it did in the 2010s. Then they shifted it a little bit to the right. Center-right. Then they shifted to the center. Then they kind of stayed in between the center-right and center with politicians like Thomas Dewey and Dwight D. like Thomas Dewey and certain other Republican politicians. They did have a definite conservative base, don't get me wrong, with Robert Taft and Barry Goldwater, obviously. But then they shifted then significantly to the right thanks to Barry Goldwater. And, they just kept shifting further to the right. They kind of stagnated in between the center-right. They stagnated between the right wing and far right. They don't necessarily shift too far to the right, out of fear that they might lose some base, but they just really... people don't realize that there is no left-wing... there's no major left-wing party in the United States. That's just something people don't realize. They make the mistake because literally every other country has a major left-wing party. It just also happens that people mistake which part that is. Because for Canada, many people also make that kind of mistake. They think that the Liberal Party is the left-wing party of Canada. No. It's the Centre Party. Like, Canada, they actually technically cover their bases. The Conservative Party is the right-wing party, the Liberal Party is the Centre Party, and the New Democratic Party is the left-wing party. Makes sense, right? So why isn't that the case for America? We can have the Democrats representing the center, Republicans representing the right, and the Green Party representing the left. And if we want to be even fairer, we could also include Libertarians representing the center-right to center, I guess. They don't really have a clear set match on the political spectrum. We could have the other parties kind of also have shifts and places to be, but that's a different topic for a different video. Now, I kind of got way off topic technically, so I guess just one more applaud to AMLO for succeeding in the presidency. Okay. Oh wait, that wasn't even what I was so off topic that I forgot what the original topic was. Well, I don't really have that many other news stories to tell you, so I guess I'll move on to the political party of the day. Now, you may have noticed that in the last episode we didn't do a political party either, but that was because, I was interviewing John Wolfe Jr. I didn't have time to talk about a smaller left-wing political party. I wanted the interview to be focused purely on John Wolfe Jr. So this one, we're going to be doing a party that ties into the topic of the video, as we know from the title. The Boston Tea Party. The Boston Tea Party was a act in the American Revolution where they dumped tea in the... Oh, wait, no. That was the wrong video. That's the wrong topic. I'm not going to pull a deep, fat, fried manatee thing on you. It's a political party that was named after the event, the Boston Tea Party. Its slogan was, "Party like it's 1773. Its leader was Thomas L. Knapp, and its chairman for a long time was Libertarian Party candidate Darrell W. Perry, which you may know was also the chair and founder of the New Hampshire Liberty Party, which I actually attempted to get. Oh, its anniversary is going to be on July 4th. It was actually founded on July 4th. It's actually kind of gay. Not to be mean to any gay people in my audience, but I'm just saying, like, that's just kind of, like, stupid. It's like a guy who founded the Objectivist Party. He's like, I'm going to do it on Anne Ryan's birthday party. Okay, the party mainly took place online. Its political position on the spectrum was fiscally they were for laissez-faire capitalism, and socially they were just libertarian. The ideology was libertarian. It's a group of former Libertarian Party members that founded the party in 2006. They criticized the LP for its abdication of political responsibility, saying that the Americans deserve and desperately need a pro-freedom party that forces advocates libertarian solutions to the issues of today. They supported reducing the size, scope, and power of the government at all levels, and on all issues opposed increasing the size, scope, and, they just wanted to make the government tiny. Like Kim Jong-un's you-know-what. But that's not a topic we would get into. It's a family show. Isn't that right? No one, because no one lives with me. Just kidding, I live with my parents. But the party's 2008 to 2010 program, the 4 points of Ron Paul's campaign for liberty advocated, among other things, the withdrawal of all American troops from around the world, including Korea, Japan, Europe, and the entire Middle East, an immediate and complete end to wireless searches and seizures, warrantless surveillance, and other practices that encroach on the personal freedom, an audit of the Federal Reserve, and the program deliberately adopted. They pretty much stole all these points from Ron Paul. Ron Paul would be proud, because isn't Ron Paul for freedom of information? I don't know. Oh wait, I forgot. Sorry, Boston Tea Party. I'm gonna have to wait a little bit because I gotta talk about this. Ron Paul got in some trouble recently. I need to talk about this. Sorry for the kind of unstructured format. You know, it's pretty much all my podcasts, but I gotta talk about this. So Ron Paul posted a picture on social media. I don't think I'm gonna put the picture in the video format of the podcast because that's too much work for me. But I'll include a link to it in the description because it's actually really hilarious. Okay, so here's what the picture is. The picture is about cultural Marxism, and the picture is like 4 people, and all their fists are rising up to form a communist fist that says like cultural Marxism on it, and it punches Uncle Sam in the face. And Ron Paul like says the caption like, "Shame what's happened to the American people due to cultural Marxism." But then people noticed something when they looked at the pictures. They looked at the picture closely and realized, wait a second, these 4 men are racial stereotypes. One of them is the stereotypical Jewish man with a big nose and like smiling loud. One was like a stereotypical Hispanic man. One was a stereotypical black man with like big lips. And one of them was like a stereotype of a Chinese man, or I guess that makes me racist because it's a stereotype of an Asian. Now, I'd criticize the picture enough for, you know, it's insinuation that cultural Marxism exists. Like, I literally kept hearing, like, Jordan Peterson, like, other people, like, saying, we need to stop cultural Marxism. Like, what is cultural Marxism? What are you talking about? Then I looked at what it was. It's like, there was one school of thought in between the 2 world wars that advocated for Marxism. And now they apparently think that literally every single teacher in the United States, or everywhere around the world, every teacher is a Marxist. That's a stupid idea on its own. But the fact that he posts a picture of, 4 racial stereotypes representing cultural Marxism, that's literally an argument that right-wingers use just on left-wingers just because they're like, oh, you're just a cultural Marxist. Well, I could just say they're a cultural Nazi. It's a stupid argument that nobody should be making. Criticize left-wingers on their ideas, not this stupid cultural Marxism. And the best part is, Ron Paul blamed it on a staffer. I don't know if this is a valid statement, but I'm just going to say this. Ron Paul has this isn't the first time Ron Paul has been accused of racial-related topics and then having him blame it on someone else. And Ted Cruz blamed someone liking a incest porn thing on his Twitter account by a staffer. I'm not saying that there's no way that it was. There is a possibility. I'm not going to say it's not a staffer. It probably was. There's a high chance it probably was, especially considering most of these high politicians don't actually tweet on their own Twitter account. They hire someone else to tweet. Like the Ralph Nader Twitter account, he doesn't tweet on his own. Whenever he tweets on his own, he has to watermark. He has to specifically preface that it's a tweet from him. So there is a chance that it's a staffer. And I do kind of like Ron Paul. I disagree with him on a lot of things, but he does have some integrity. A lot more integrity than his son does. But yeah, Ron. Especially considering Ron Paul he's even got like pictures of himself in front of a Confederate flag. That doesn't help your statement, Ron. Back to the Boston Tea Party. On December 2nd, 2009, the National Committee passed a resolution to support honest money. And trying to find electoral history. Yes, this is the one I want to specifically talk about. Charles J. was the party's first presidential nominee. He received the BTP presidential nomination for the 2008 general election. He was on the ballot in Florida, Tennessee, and Colorado. He was a write-in candidate in more than 10 other states. Thomas L. Knapp, who you may know as the founder of the party, was actually the vice presidential nominee. Knapp was also running for Congress as a Libertarian Party candidate in the same election. However, there were a lot of alternative candidates, like John Wayne Smith, Thomas J. Mariano, etc. In the 2008 presidential election, Jay received 2,422 votes, putting him in 15th place. On December 23rd, 2011, after a 2-day presidential nominee convention, which took place online and was open to all BTP members, Tiffany Brusco of Maryland was chosen as the 2012 BTP nominee for the first round of voting with 13 out of 20 votes. Kimberly Johnson Barrick of Arizona was chosen as the vice presidential nominee due to the second round of voting. On March 2012, the party membership removed Briscoe as the presidential nominee, replacing her with Noda. No reason is given why. On March 20th, 2012, the party membership passed a motion to hold a new presidential nomination convention, which began on March 30th. Jim Duensing of Nevada was nominated on the 4th round balloting, and Barrick remained the VP nominee. Ultimately, the BTP did not run a candidate in the general election as the party disbanded in July 2012 due to the fact that Darryl Perry left the party, and Darryl Perry was the glue that held the party together. You know, the guy who literally says that the government requires a license to drive. The government requires a license for fishing, I believe is what he said. And he's like, what's next? We need to have a license to make toast in our own damn toaster? Absolutely not. Now, the Boston Tea Party, like everybody, it's pretty much just like, you know, you gotta, if you believe in the platform of the party, fine. Go for it. I'm not gonna stop you. But I wouldn't. Because I'm not that. I'm not a libertarian. At least not an American libertarian. But that's just me. Okay, so this episode, we're going to be discussing something that was discussed briefly in my Libertarian Party video. As this is something I'm going to be looking forward to. I could not make it in person, but, you know, it's nice to know what happened. Okay. So we're going to be talking about the 2018 Libertarian National Convention. Its slogan this year was, I'm that libertarian, which, for those of you who do not know, that was the slogan of the late Mark Allen Feldman. R.I.P. It was held in New Orleans, Louisiana. Thankfully, Samantha Bee does not have cannon fodder, with that being, oh wait, don't Libertarian parties believe that we shouldn't have rescue funding? Damn it, now she's got more cannon fodder. It was, first we're going to go over some of the speakers, like who spoke at this venue, who was, like, many of the, you know, major speakers of this event. We have Jim Cantrell, an entrepreneur, Judge James P. Gray, the 2012 VP for 2012, like the 2012 VP for Libertarian Party, Carla Howell, former executive director of the Libertarian National Committee, Zoltan Itzvan, the 2018 candidate for governor of California and 2020 candidate for president of the United States, Tim Moen, leader of the Libertarian Party in Canada, Brandon Finney, Libertarian member of the New Hampshire House of Representatives, Larry Sharp, 2016 VP candidate, and 2018 candidate for governor of New York, and Joel Trammell, entrepreneur. Sadly, as it appears to have been, Ron Paul was not able to make an attendance. This kind of saddens me because, well, Ron Paul, he's the OG libertarian. It's maddening that he wouldn't be allowed at this event. Now, you could, the fact that people in the party actually said he has no clue what the Libertarian Party represents. Motherfucker, he put your party on the map. He and Gary Johnson put your party on the map. David Nolan didn't do that. Nicholas Sarwark certainly didn't do that. Yeah, I could see Mr. Beat now. He's people are just sitting in their seat, thinking, you know who led me to the Libertarian Party? Nicholas Sarwark. Nobody cares about him. They cared about Johnson. They cared about Paul. These two were people who put the Libertarian Party on the map. And yet, Ron Paul was not. When they literally asked, can we bring him? They literally just said no. Why was this even a question? The Green Party National Convention, they're not going to do this with Ralph Nader. They better not do this with Ralph Nader. If people want to bring Ralph Nader to the 2018 Green Party National Convention, if they say no, I'm going to tell the Green Party to go fuck off. Because you can't do that to your OG people who put your party on the map. It's ludicrous. You can't do that. It's nonsense. It's madness. Why? Why is this an actual question? Should we bring Ron Paul, the guy who made people realize what a libertarian is, should we bring him to the event to make people like the Libertarian Party? Nah. I'm sure that we can do fine just without him. No. You won't do fine without him. I guarantee you that if Ron Paul ran for the Libertarian nomination in 2020, I guarantee you he would poll higher than he would poll higher than I'm pretty sure he could beat Donald Trump. But I mean, let's say the race is Paul, Sanders, and Trump. Sanders would probably win, but Paul would definitely be a close freaking second. It's a good thing that these two agree with a lot of things, because I'm pretty sure that at the very least at the end of it, one of them might even be like, hey, hold on, maybe we should actually help the other campaign a lot more. And I can guarantee you, if they were all three on the debate stage, Paul would be nice. He would be nice as frick. Not to Trump, probably, but to Bernie, he'd be nice because, well, they agree on a lot of issues and they let on. And this is another kind of tangent, but why don't more people realize that the Progressive Libertarian Alliance needs to happen? It needs to happen. Progressives of the Green Party and Libertarians of the Libertarian Party, they need to align. They need to come close together and realize we gotta fight for America. We gotta fight. But you see, some people on one side are too afraid of, the libertarians are too afraid of being socialists. They're like, oh, we can't align with them, they're socialists. And some of the progressives, don't get me wrong, are going to look at the libertarians and be like, well, we can't be anarchists like them. But if you look logically, think about it. Libertarians, we want to legalize drugs, we want to end all the wars, end wireless surveillance, make gays have the same rights as Americans. They also want to, bring, lessen gun control, free market, capitalism. And then, meanwhile, the progressive platform, we want to end all the wars, end wiretapping, make drugs legal. We want to strengthen gun control, make gays equal. Well, as you can see, they agreed on a lot more than they disagreed. So, and people think, Well, how are we going to work with them? We disagree with them on these issues. Let me give you an example. Let's say I'm in Congress with Ron Paul. Let's say me and him are congressmen. Ron enacts a bill. His bill says we need to end government wiretapping. You think me as a progressive is going to be like, well, I disagree with you, Ron Paul, because you're a libertarian? No, I'm going to say, where's my pen? I'm going to co-sponsor this bill. And this happens all the time. People don't seem to realize. Some people are smart and realize, yeah, we need to work together. For example, Alan Grayson, Dennis Kucinich, Ron Paul, Bernie Sanders, they all voted on a lot of things. But, you know, they just decide, you know, we need to do this. It's a good idea. They call me crazy for actually thinking maybe we need to actually work together as a country without actually ignoring our ideals. If we actually ignore what we want to accomplish and ignore what we actually believe as a politically active people, we can't do that. We need to actually work together on issues we agree with, but, you know, work with what you got. I mean, the Democrats and Republicans do that behind our backs all the time. Hey-o! Like, I mean, they agree on making sure the war's safe forever, and they vote on those all the time. And people think, oh yeah, by the way, again, another tangent, but I'm kind of trying to lengthen the episode too, but I saw this tweet by a person who was retweeted by Darcy Richardson, and this is kind of why I kind of hesitate on endorsing him. But he's like, the far left and the far right have broken our Congress, and we need to work together. We need to unite under a single banner and fix our country. It's like, no, that's not true. That's not true at all. You are insane if you believe that the Democratic Party is far left. I just went over this earlier in the episode, but I need to emphasize this. The Democratic Party is not far left. The Democratic Party is 80% centrist, or even 90%. They are not left. Certain Democratic politicians are left. FDR is left. LBJ is left. Ro Khanna is left. Raul Grijalva's left. Tulsi Gabbard's left. Kucinich is left. Grayson's left. Estes Kefauver is left. But Hillary Clinton is not left. Joe Biden is not left. Tom Perez is not left. Andrew Cuomo's not left. Cory Booker's not left. Nancy Pelosi's not left. And the thing is, I could go on forever on the ones that are not left, but I'll reach an end point when I get to the ones who are left. People think I'm stupid. People think I'm a fucking maniac when I insinuate the Democratic Party's not left. They look at me and think, they think, we need to shift the Democratic Party further to the center, which I'm repeating myself, but there is no center left for them. There's no center at this point for them to shift back to. If they shifted to the center, they'd still be shifting left. Because there's nothing else for them to do. Okay, so back to the Libertarian Party. Kind of got off track there. This one, they tried to re-elect a chairman. They decided that it was the chairman election time. Okay, so Nicholas Sarwark was up for re-election for chairman, which I did not. Which, I mean, I sent him a link to the Libertarian video. I thought he was going to advertise it, but no. He's just like, thank you for doing this. Okay. I mean, I kind of expected you to give me some kind of credit. John Wolfe, he was nice enough to share my episode where I interviewed him. You yet to do anything, Mr. Nicholas Sarwark. You want people to know about your party? Share the link. I can give them the entire history of your party on the back of my hand. Member of the Libertarian Party of Washington, Joshua Smith, also announced his candidacy. You see, Nicholas Sarwark was more of the classical liberal type libertarian, whereas Joshua Smith was like the more ANCAP version. Matt Scudder also ran. I don't know who that is, so I don't really care. He was the fat one on the stage that nobody cared about. Okay. But this one, the last candidate, is the best one. Not even just in the ones that I agreed with. But let me explain. His name is Matt Kuhnel. It's something like that. Matt. Insert last name here. That starts with. It's spelled Kuehnl. Kuehnel. That's what his last name was spelled. He was an anarcho-communist, i.e., just a Marxist. He advocated for abolishing the government, but instead of shifting towards laissez-faire capitalism, he wanted to shift to pure Marxism. He was the founder of Dankertarians, which was a libertarian fake group of caucus, and he was the head chair of the Libertarian Socialist Caucus. So, as you may notice, he was a left libertarian and not a right libertarian. And I was ecstatic because I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I actually briefly identified as a libertarian. Now I know what you may be thinking. Wait, what? When was this? Well, in between the 2016 election and early 2017. No, yes. In between the 2016 election in November and January 2016, sometime before January 20th, I know that. Like, in between that time, month, like that December, I briefly identified as a libertarian, but more in a small faction called a libertarian, which was a stupid moniker of like merging libertarian and liberal ideas, even though, liberal's not a left-wing idea, but don't tell libertarians that. They think all left-wingers are socialists. Okay, so pretty much, and I mean, I kind of also identified with other kinds of libertarian left ideas, libertarian socialism. I kind of briefly dabbled in them, all because my political compass test put me in the left libertarian faction of the political compass test. Let's see if that still fits when I inevitably do the test again. So, it's, I kind of briefly identified as a left libertarian. So, but then I even was like, I want to run for president of the Libertarian Party. But then I took a picture of the Libertarian Party and realized they're not me. They're right libertarians. I'm not that. So I kind of went with, where other left libertarian ideologies end up. Progressivism. Progressivism is a left libertarian ideology, technically. on libertarian issues, like on social issues, you really don't care, but on economics, like that's the thing about libertarianism. It technically doesn't have a stance on economics. It really just technically has a stance on you as a person. So, if an individual wants to get married and have kids, but that individual also believes that we need a fair welfare state and fair economics, progressive tax system, they're left libertarian. But if his brother also believes that an individual should be free to smoke or do whoever he wants, but also has some conservative political viewpoints, like free trade over fair trade, they would be right libertarian. And the modern day Libertarian Party has been dominated by right libertarians for a long time. But now this was actually a chance for left libertarians to actually take a firm step in the Libertarian Party. You see, because that's also a thing I kind of feel that the Libertarian Party needs to do. If they don't actually adhere to libertarian, like full on everybody libertarianism, then how the heck are they gonna win? If they literally cut off half of their viewers. But anyways, this was and I even watched the debate, like, just the portions of the debate that had to do with him, because I literally could not care less about Nicholas Salwark. I literally could not care less about Matt Scudder. I really only cared about this left libertarian because I was like, how does he do in the debate? And he actually does surprisingly well in the debate. Like, he holds his own and gets many people to applaud many of his stances. Even though you might be like, well, how many stances can a person who is anti, communist do? Well, people surprisingly loved his ideas. He, of course, exchanged some bad words with Joshua Smith, the ANCAP of the group. Now let's kind of move on to a little bit of endorsements, because Nicholas Sarwark was endorsed by Phil Anderson, 2018 Libertarian candidate for governor of Wisconsin. Steve Dunter, a Libertarian candidate for Illinois Secretary of State, also endorsed him. Joshua Smith was endorsed by Larry Sharp, Libertarian Mises Caucus, Liberty Hangout, and not Larry Sharp, and 71 Republic. Now, Liberty Hangout was also been accused for being an alt-right source, but I don't really know much about him. Now, Nicholas Sarwark inevitably won, sadly. I mean, that makes it seem like I really cared too much about the party and its, ideals, but the Libertarian Party needs to get some backbone if they want to end up winning. But that's just me. It really just boils down to personal preference out of the candidates. My ideals technically adhere to Matt Kuhnel the most, even though we disagree on a lot. Like, he actually he had some guts. He stood in front of the party and literally said, I support single-payer healthcare. That takes guts for a libertarian to go on the stage and say, I support single-payer healthcare. Now, the vice chairman seat was also up for re-election. The incumbent was Arvin Vora, who you may know was accused of being a pedophile. Not explicitly accused of being a pedophile himself, but more of a pedophile, what's the word? A pedophile basically the kind of guy that's like, no, it's not a pedophile, it's a pedosexual, actually. But there were some other individuals like Libertarian Youth Caucus founder Trent Soames, Alex Merced, Iowa gubernatorial candidate Jake Porter, Indiana activist Joe Hauptman, Indiana Libertarian Party chair Sam Goldstein, and many people actually even tried to get Matthew Geiger, to libertarian activist and a high school student, to be the vice chairman, which, again, also Matt, libertarian socialist man, also was for. Because he also is like, we need to take a firm stance of ending and making the voting age lower than 18. Which, I mean, I'm kind of half yes, half no on that. Not because of anything in particular, but, because I kind of am a bit salty, because it's like, well, I would have liked to vote when I was 16, so I'm not going to give you guys the right. By the way, I need to get my voter registration. Now, Alex Merced was endorsed by Larry Sharp and the Libertarian Mises Caucus, who you may remember was the people who wanted to get Ron Paul to be in the Libertarian National Convention, period. I was just scrolling here, and I found James Weeks. James Weeks the second? You have returned? Baby, I'm waiting for you to come back. For those who don't remember, James Weeks Jr. was the guy who stripped down to a thong. Man. John Wolfe Jr. expressed some disapproval of Javert Supreme. I bet he couldn't wait to see James Weeks Jr. I bet he would have just took that guy and just dragged him out right then and there. If I get another chance to interview him, I will gladly ask him about that. Okay, so out of all the candidates, they had many debates, actually. Two on Google Hangouts, and the rest at state conventions. Now, here's the thing. Sam Goldstein did not attend any of them. Joe Hauptman attended all but one. Joe Pascal attended 2. Jake Porter attended none. Trent Soames attended none. Steve Sheets attended all but 1. Arvin Vera attended all but 1. And James Weeks only attended 2. Now, Alex Merced, I actually applaud him because he went to all of the debates. This guy wanted to be the Libertarian Party vice chair. And I already like him more than Arvin Vora because, with libertarians, you literally are like, you agree with them on half of the issues. Unless you are a libertarian yourself, you agree with them on half of the issues. So anybody was better than Arvin Vora. And it looks like the Libertarian Party has also made that choice because Alex Merced actually won the vice chairman nomination. So good on him. Now, the Libertarian Socialist didn't end up winning the nomination for... He didn't end up becoming the chair itself, but, I mean, it was good for him for trying. I mean, he knew it was a long shot, because, well, calling yourself an anarcho-communist surprisingly does not get you a lot of fans in the Libertarian National Convention, which, by the way, there was a question that made me so mad. Well, not mad, but kind of mad at their ignorance. So let me explain. The question was said basically, if left-wing or right-wing collectivists invade the party, what would you do about it as chairman? And then just Joshua Smith, the ANCAP, remember, he said, quote, well, I would say that it has already happened because one person on the stage happens to identify as a communist. To which I say, motherfucker, do you not know history? Because, let me give you a brief history lesson. This kind of spoils a possible video I would do in the future about the Peace and Freedom Party, because that party has a lengthy history, but let me briefly explain what happened. The Peace and Freedom Party itself had an attempted invasion on it from libertarians. People don't remember this because they're either weren't born at the time or just don't bother doing the research. So let me explain. The Peace and Freedom Party, who all of you may know is a socialist party, at least openly democratic socialist at the very least, they... By the way, I'll get into a brief rant about democratic socialism later, but... Okay, so... It is a... Basically, it's a feminist and socialist party that ran a lot of candidates. Now, during one of the elections, Murray Rothbard, he attempted to basically take over the party with libertarian thinkers because he was like, but we're also peace and freedom people. Why is the Socialist Party claiming to be for freedom if they're socialist? So he attempted to take over the party. It didn't work, obviously, but I mean, you can't say like, oh well, it's like, you idiot. This is not much I can really say about that. So let me briefly go into a rant about, because there's also another thing that's kind of been happening recently. This kind of concludes the Libertarian National Convention discussion, but this is going to be a brief note that I end on. Democratic socialism versus social democracy. These ideologies are closely intertwined, but have been recently beginning a lot of misconceptions about them. Now these political misconceptions happen all the time. Since people don't really care about what you call your ideology, they just care about the substance of the ideology. But ever since Bernie Sanders called himself a democratic socialist, we've ended up in a downward spiral where democratic socialists are being basically pushed out of their own ideology because it's being invaded by a bunch of social democrats like me. Again, back to the whole invasion thing. So, it's much like when people use liberal and left-winger as interchangeable things, because they're not. Liberal means that you're for freedom all around. They adhere to the free market and blah blah blah. Because as we all know, all left-wingers are for the uninhibited power of the free market. But we need to understand that we need to be clear as daylight about the substance of what we believe before we adherently follow someone else. Because remember, Bernie Sanders calls himself a democratic socialist, but he's not. He's a social democrat. Just look at his platform and you'll see it's just social democracy. But he calls himself a democratic socialist because I believe he was a democratic socialist when he started his political career, and he just kind of took a liking to the name and he didn't want to stop using it. But he's a social democrat now. Kind of the same thing with Eugene V. Debs, which I will talk about in a possible end of year video ripping off the Nostalgia Critic. He wasn't really a social democrat, he was more of a democratic socialist. But he called himself a socialist because that made it easier. As you can tell, my throat kind of hurts from ranting. So I guess I'm pretty close to the 1 hour mark. I'm just gonna end the video here. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and click the bell. Click the bell, and explicitly like and comment, because I really, well, this is kind of a problem I had with another channel I had, but I want people to like and comment. I really want people to comment on my videos, because I like hearing fan feedback, whether it be a question or a statement, because I can answer the question right there in the comment section. And I want you to be notified when a video comes out, because, I mean, my videos barely get any views that aren't me, to be quite honest. But again, I need to adhere to an ideology Kyle Kalinske from Sickler Talk told me. If you want to, you know, like, if you want to talk about politics on this YouTube channel, you have to be okay with talking to a brick wall, because it's not going to get you views. It's probably not going to get you views, but, you know, it's something, if you feel like you want to talk about it, you gotta talk about it without even wanting to get views. But, I mean, I do kind of like the fan feedback. And leave any questions you want, possibly in the comments below. I might do a Q&A at one point in the future again. So, oh yeah, and visit my website, because I like, oh yeah, and follow me on Twitter, Quora, Facebook, because I have an official Facebook page that I made. And, yeah. So, catch you later on the flip side, homies.